Hello and welcome to Drunk on Tea. Today I'm going to show you how I paint this Gollum model. As always, I start off with a Chaos Black prime all over the model. Now first I'm going to paint the rock that he's climbing on. So I give it a good solid base coat of Mechanica Standard Grey. This will take 2 or 3 coats to give you a good even coverage. Don't worry about being too neat, just work your way around the model. A couple of thin coats. Get a nice cover working it into all those cracks and crevices. So once you've got a good solid base cover of Mechanica Standard Grey, you want to come in with a little bit of Nuln Oil and just give that an all over shade. Make sure you work it into the crevices so you get some nice definition. Once that shade has dried, as you can see here, you've got a bit of a messy looking rock. We're going to come in with a dry brush now of Dawnstone. Give that an all over dry brush, quite a heavy one, almost an overbrush, to make sure you sort of catch all the raised edges and a bit of the rock face as well. Once you're happy with that dry brush, I come in with some Administratum Grey. For this I try and do sort of a top to bottom at a slight angle, just to show like a bit of light hitting the rock. And there we go, that's it, the rock is done. It's quick and easy for that. So now I'm going to come in with a Baden Black now and paint all of the Gollum on it. So you'll have got some of the dry brush over him. So we want to get that back to an even cover. So just pick out all of the bits, paint all over Gollum. Obviously be careful when you get around his feet and his hands. So once that Abaddon Black is dry, just come in with some Bugman's Glow. I'm going to paint all the flesh of Gollum, and this is most of him. Don't need to be too neat. The other details there are there is only his hair, and he's got a little bit of cloth. Try and avoid them. But use nice thin Bugman Glow for this. Come in, do a couple of coats. Obviously take your time when you're dealing with the details like his hand where he comes in contact with the rock. Try and keep that all where you want it without making any mistakes. Now once you've got him with a good cover of Bugman's Glow all over, I'm going to shade all of that with Whiteland Flesh Shade. So just work that around the model. And then once that's dried, we're going to start highlighting the skin. So come in with some Cadian Flesh Tone, nice and thinned down. You're going to take a couple of coats on this, work your way around. So wherever the shade has settled, leave that and paint on either side of it, so you get the shade and the depth, perhaps a little bit of the Bugman's Glow in between, and then the thin Cadian flesh tone. So on his face it's things like all the cheeks, around his mouth, top and bottom lip, nose, obviously he's got quite pronounced eyebrows, ears as well. You'll see all the details and you just work around, catch everything that's raised up. This being thin, you can work your way around in 2 coats. Putting the second coat slightly inside your first, and that will also help with creating a transition between your highlights as well. Just take your time, pick all of the details. As this is most of him, you want to spend your time on this step, because this is what people will be noticing. So you see here on his arm, I've done his shoulder and his hands and his fingers, and I worked onto the elbow there. And on his back, he's got a lot of these scars from where he was whipped in Mordor. So make sure you sort of get all of them, paint around a bit, and leave a bit of the darker shade next to them so that they look really sore and painful. And then once you've done 2 coats, it should look something like this. And you see you've got some nice colour and transitions there. Now I come in with some Kislev flesh. I'm going to put this in all of the previous highlight steps. So now you'll have a little bit of shade, a little bit of Bugman's glow, then Cadian flesh tone, and then the Kislev flesh. So you work here like on his like pec muscles and his shoulders, all of this nice and thin. Just work your way around the model, putting this inside all of your previous highlight steps. And then once you've highlighted that up, he's got a nice colour to him. And now I come in with some Deepkin flesh. And for this I treat it like an edge highlight. So see around his cheeks and his ear and his bottom lip and his chin. And then all the most raised areas. So here around his pectoral muscles. Going to get an edge highlight on all of them. Just work your way around the model. All of the sharpest edges and most raised points. Just put a little bit of Deepkin flesh as a final edge highlight. So with that done, Gollum's skin looks nice and old and wrinkly. It's time to come in and paint his eyes. So I'm just doing this with a little bit of Baden black into that socket. Just lay it down in there. And then a bit of white scar as a line in the middle of that. And then finally, just a little line of Baden black again in the middle of the white scar. While I was doing that white scar, I also just highlighted his teeth there too. So now it's time to paint his hair. So I'm just coming in with some Mechanica Standard Grey. I'll be nice and neat. You don't want to get this over the skin you spent all that time highlighting. So just catch all of it, give it a nice solid colour of Mechanica Standard Grey. And for the cloth fabric he's wearing, I'm coming with a bit of Mournfang Brown, just catching all of that cloth there. It also goes underneath his belly and up to the rock a little bit, so make sure you catch that as well. So once those two colours are dry, the next step is coming with a bit of Nuln Oil and shade the hair and the cloth. Be nice and careful, you don't want to get this over the skin if you can help it. Give them an all over shade. I'm going to highlight the cloth, so I'm coming back in with Mournfang Brown and catching all the raised areas where the shades didn't settle to bring it back to that original base colour. And once I've done that, it's a 50-50 mix of Mournfang Brown and Skag Brown. And I'm highlighting in the middle of all of those parts I just added a Mournfang Brown to. And the final highlight on that fabric is just straight Skag Brown, just as an edge highlight on all the most raised details. And you can see that's highlighted there, looks quite nice. So the final thing left to do is just highlight the hair. So for this I'm just using Dawnstone, and just take your time and pick up all the strands that are sculpted onto the model. If you find a flat area, just put a couple of sort of vertical lines of Dawnstone to act like hairs. This is the final step, so just take your time, make sure you pick out all of those strands of hair. You could dry brush this, but there's a risk of missing and painting all over the skin you spent all that time doing. So it's better just to do this strand by strand, catch each one as a final finishing touch. And there you have it. there's a completed Gollum. Nice, quick and easy paint job. He looks really good on the battlefield. So thank you for watching and enjoy painting.